Dokie. Okay, there you go. Recording in progress. So the first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself. I'm Dr. Judy Ann Kellaway. I'm the Associate Dean for Admissions and Outreach here at the Long School of Medicine. We are all about giving you as much information as you need to make a successful journey to medical school. So I'm excited to be here with you today. I would love to hear your voices. Just say hello in response. So hello. So unmute so we can hear human voices for just a second and we'll get going. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
great. That's so much better. So thank you. And I realize some of you cannot be on camera today, and that's perfectly fine. I am going to share my screen and we will get going. And let's see. I do have the Q&A open, so it's a little hard to manage questions through the chat because it keeps moving. So we're going to use that Q&A. If you have any questions along the way, I probably won't multitask. We'll probably do them at the end. Okay. So happy to be with you, and let's talk about applying, reapplying, the important things I think you need to know. I have a lot of experience in admissions since 1994. You do the math, but I'm currently involved in admissions and guiding a committee and that kind of thing. And our team does a lot of uh, work in helping to prepare you for this journey. So I feel like we'll have good modern information for you. So there we go. That's me. And here you are. So successful applicants are purposeful. They are organized. They make a plan with purpose. And then you develop, you either have or you grow the discipline to attack that plan in a strong way. And reflection is a superpower. I'll refer to some things I have out there for you on our YouTube channel, etc. There is a video on superpowers. There are some things adjacent to the actual medical school and activities and journey that you're building. There are some things that are adjacent that are very important for you to know about. And one of those superpowers is reflection. We'll get into that in detail in a bit. We like to see a variety of experiences. That's a common question. Should I do one thing for a long time? I think those are very valuable also, but we like to see a little variety in your activity section. You need to express the meaning in your activities and your experiences and not just tell us about them on a superficial level. Those experiences, these things that you know you are having to do, have to do, you should not approach like a checkbox. So how many hours of this and that, I can give you averages and things like that. But if you did something for a very short time and got a lot of value out of it and are able to express that value to us, that's huge. That's what we're looking for. We're not always looking for the number of hours. If you have 1,000 hours in something and can't speak to its meaning and value and the lessons that you learned, those 1,000 hours aren't worth much on this side of the thing. Those experience then, you're having those to learn about the world of medicine, to learn about the world, to learn about people, to engage and help people. But they are then translated into you growing strong personal attributes. Okay. So that's a very important piece of this. Um, Successful applicants have challenged themselves. We're going to look at a mnemonic that my ChatGPT calls climb. And we look for, these are things that are sometimes hidden in the application. I call it the hidden agenda. And so we're looking to see how you've challenged yourself, what you've done with that challenge. Sometimes it happens in two ways. Sometimes challenges fall upon us and we have to figure out what to do. Sometimes we take on a challenge on our own, and you do something challenging on purpose. So we look at that both ways. We love when you are learning something new and teaching yourself, perhaps. We look for how you're improving yourself all along this journey actively. We love to see that you are meeting the people of the world, especially, this is a star, especially people not like you, whatever your background is, whatever it is, wherever you come from, whoever you are, whatever your backgrounds, culture, traditions, um, look to see what other people are like and what their perspectives are on things and how those perspectives were built. And that's very important. Um, and then get out of your box, get out of your comfort zone, do things. It's like the challenge. You can see how all these things are interrelated, but do something to get out of your comfort zone. All right, that's some broad things. These are things we actually hear from committee when they are talking about an applicant that they have interviewed and are all excited about the rest of us learning about these great things. Heart of service, culturally aware and sensitive, humble and kind, honors and respects people, lots of interaction with people. They're industrious, creative, curious, dynamic. Um, if we're talking about a reapplicant, they comment that the reapplicant has made improvement in their application since the last time. They have continued their healthcare, community service, and extracurriculars, and have added new experiences more recently as well. So other comments um, happen to be these. You might anticipate these. The motivation is not clearly expressed in the application or the interview. Sometimes this comes from if you're a quiet person, if you're a reserved person, if you're rather an introvert, you've got to bring it. Those things are in the interview video on the channel. But if you're quiet and reserved, you've got to bring it on that interview day. First, bring it in your application, that desire to help people and learn and use medicine. Reflection for sure. Maybe somebody needs to get out of the box and out of their comfort zone. If they have done all of their experiences in one place, for example, one geographic location, get out there and find some things in other places. Sometimes things are a little unidimensional, and I hope you can find the nuance of this. Okay, it is excellent to find motivation for medicine and then hone it, and you end up doing things in hospice, or you end up doing things with an older population. You end up doing things with people who may have some developmental delay or something that you latch on to because you are really loving that population and working for and with that population. So that's not the unidimensional thing when it's not additive to your application is just rather superficial and is not developing those special pieces that you want to grow. Maybe we can think of some examples later. I have some in mind, so you can ask me. Um, it is very worrisome when the whole personal statement or those in the three essays, really, we don't see any evidence of engaging with others. So this is all about, this is a connected to people life ahead of you in medicine, and you need to be really connected and really paying attention, of course, you know this, to what your patients are experiencing in not just the health arena, but their whole lives, right? When there aren't people described in those essays, it's very worrisome actually, and that's like can almost be a deal breaker. This happens most of the time when there is kind of a light biography, when your activities, the personal biography, it's called in the TMDSAS system, when that's kind of light, the activities are sort of, at the minimal levels, then that's what we sometimes see. You don't have enough to write about, right? Other comments. In the interviews, sometimes already said this, you need to bring your enthusiasm. And if you're a quiet person, it might be all in here, like burning, bursting out of your heart. But boy, we need to see it in the way you speak with us at the time of the interview. That lack of enthusiasm. Superficial answers. What does that mean? It means you're describing ascribe to us. That's kind of superficial. We want to know meaning, value. We want you to have reflected on your activities that we're going to talk about. And sometimes, like, unprofessional behavior. So, in the actual interview, occasionally, not very commonly at all, we do think somebody's very unenthusiastic. And if that's your demeanor, if you have a very casual sort of demeanor, we can misinterpret that again, like a shy person, we can misinterpret that as a lack of motivation, lack of enthusiasm, or lack of interest for that particular school where you're interviewing. So watch those things. Unprofessional behavior. You want to make sure you're professional in every way. How you carry yourself, how you speak. You might need to practice some of these things. Okay, showing up on time, and inappropriate attire for respecting the importance of the day during interview day, that kind of thing. I can go on and on about professionalism. There are 2 hours of videos on the channel that you could play me at double speed. For reapplicants, you have to make changes, right? You have to make changes. You have to look at it. That's what this is for, to look at the overview of what you've got and then some details. If there aren't any current activities and you've just rushed to put another application together and get it in there by the next May, that's not going to be very valuable. The deficiencies aren't corrected, or the pathway is not clear. So those are some things that we see when a reapplicant has not been successful. I want to tell you about numbers. I describe these things this way, like if you are a reapplicant, what happened? So there's numbers 1, 2, and 3. Numbers 1 is just the statistics. Okay, this is a competitive thing, and 50,000 plus applicants are applying across the nation every year. These ratios are mirrored in the state of Texas. If you're a Texan and are familiar mostly with the TMDSAS system, the numbers carry over. There are only 20,000 plus spots for these 50,000 applicants. So that's one way that it happens, is you don't get in just because there are so many people out there. It's very competitive. A lot of people are applying, and we just don't have enough spots for all of the qualified candidates. Okay. Number 2 is statistically. So here's a point that you've heard before, but I give you some caution about this. You hear, don't you, apply early from all your advisors everywhere. And this is based on, there's actual data to show, look at TMDSAS. If you take the pie of people who are interviewed in any given cycle, the people who are interviewed, like 75% of the people who make it to an interview have submitted their application in May, June, those 2 months. So kind of crazy, right? May, June, and July, also, that carries then a larger percentage. But there's a big warning here. We can really tell when you have spent time with your application. And we can really tell that you've thrown it together. It hasn't all of the descriptors, the essays, the things that you're putting together look just put together without too much reflection or thought. We can really tell. I would much rather look at an application in September or October that was just submitted than see poor quality in the beginning. So, but if you start from the beginning or take an extra year to pull all of these things together in a very high quality way, maybe add some things like a personal growth plan, then you're going to stand out, even if it's a later submission. And part 3 is know your statistics. I think a lot of people, when the MCAT first came out, they were talking about 500 as being the average, and it's not the average for matriculants. They base, I don't know statistics, um, but um, the the they manipulate the test scores to center around a mean, right? So I don't really know, but that's not 500 is not who gets in. The average, you need to know the averages for your schools and the nation schools, the Texas schools. The average MCAT, which is usually the one that presents an obstacle for people, is a 512 across the country. That's the average MCAT of matriculants. Different schools are going to have their own statistics, so you should be researching those things too. And that applies to Texas as well. The average GPA is going up and up. I would say we just had a report from TMDSAS that it's 3.8, but there's more leeway, I think, in that number across schools. It's pretty common to be an underseller, and you've really done things that you aren't reporting to us. So you'll hear in other videos on the channel, like, keep track of everything. You don't know that that podcast you're listening to every research day under the hood when you're doing things is, if it's something very interesting that you're doing as a habit, that's like personal growth there. So there might be things that you're doing that you're not reporting. So don't undersell yourself. Okay. The interview, it's unusual for that to be the deal breaker. Mostly people are very prepared and do a great job in the interview setting. And so the experience lacking, application lacks in some areas, maybe the personal statement. Violations are a rare cause of an applicant not gaining acceptance. In that situation, we're looking for humility and being accountable for that error that you made, and remorse. Okay. So you can't just, a lot of times in that response for a violation, people are very factual, just the facts, just the facts. We'd rather hear what you learned from that, from that mistake. General tips are: apply in your year in a traditional path. People are applying in their junior year to matriculate into medical school after undergrad graduation. But we ask a lot of you. We ask a lot. We ask you to do a lot in that traditional pathway. More and more people are taking gap years. I love gap years. Our committee, lots of people, every I don't know if there's an exception. I'm going to say every committee member across the country loves for you to take your time and be industrious with your time. Use your time well. So love gap years. Luke 12:48 says, to whom much is given, much is expected. So we expect a lot of everyone. If you do happen to have resources at your disposal, like a family member who's a physician, maybe through that person you can get some shadowing experiences. Make sure you do things on your own as well. But that's what that means. It's that mom, dad, relative factor. Use them as a good resource, but don't depend on them as a resource. Okay. And we do see people, for example, in rural areas. It's hard to get shadowing experiences anywhere, but if you're rural, it's really limited. So we understand all that. So that's why I reference Luke 12:48. Key question for a reapplicant is, what have you done to improve your application? Okay, so when you meet with people after this, or when you're developing your second application, you need to look at what you've done. What's the difference in this application? And let it show and let it shine. We want you to describe those activities in the best way. So what superpower are you going to use? Reflection, which means you set aside time now on a regular basis. That's fun homework, and you set aside time to look at an activity, use the prompts, and describe it in a little bit better way. I'm going to give you the key prompts. I've got lots of tips and specific things for you. Don't oversell. Don't exaggerate or repeat too much. Make sure the things that you're describing are actually showing in your application. You can repeat in the right places. Would you like to see some real examples? We're going to see some real examples. Okay. Um, the shoebox, I've got a structured method for you to approach this application. I'll give you the QR code if you're not familiar with that. And that gives you an overview of everything. It helps you be ready when it's time for the application. What you really need to do is have a real, a critical and real, reality-based view of your application. And we'll help you with that. That's what this is all about. Okay. Um, General tips, everything counts, large and small. As I said, record everything. You don't know what's going to stand out to us. So make sure you capture everything, at least on your log. Maybe everything doesn't make it to the application, but at least log it so you can give it some thought and think about the things that have given you so much. We do want to hear about those, even if they look small to you. You can combine some of the small shadowing experiences, for example. If you've got 2 hours here, 4 hours there, combine those. Don't leave them off. All good things are, these are my sayings. Everything counts, large and small. All good things are good. So if you're going to ask me if being a pharmacy tech is a good thing, I'm going to say yes. There are some things that are higher or less value to us on the surface as we look at your biography, until you do the reflection piece and show us the value. And it's your journey. This is so important. You're doing this road. Yes, along with 50,000 other people in any given cycle, that's true. But it's your journey, and they're all different. And so many people are successful in the end. Um, so many reapplicants are successful in the end. So if you have this dream and it is in your heart, you can make this happen. You just need to keep working on it, okay, and gathering the resources that you need. Just remember, you're not competing with other people. So you're just trying to be outstanding and get yourself into a competitive category, which you do really by maximizing your journey, making the most out of everything you do. Um, let's walk through here. I think the photos, so these are many of the components of the application. Um, I think your photo is important. Your photo tells a lot, and you actually, like, nobody's keeping points, but if we see an application photo that's a slobby t-shirt, a selfie before, because you want to like get to your desk and submit the application, that carries a message. Okay. A group picture and the beers might be cut out and but a gang picture, and we have to figure out like who are you, and it's a party situation or something, that carries a message. If it is a nicely dressed, professionally dressed person comporting yourself or carrying yourself in a professional manner with a bright smile on your face, that carries a message. I don't look, our committee, I think lots of people across the nation would agree with this. We don't look at your picture to identify you, and we don't compare it on interview day or anything like that. I'm looking personally, and many of my committee members are looking to say, I'm in an emergency. I'm like panicking because my child has had an injury, or I'm in pain and distress. Is this the person I want to see in the ER? Okay, so I think you can convey warmth and interest and a smiling face. I don't want anything negative. I want all positive. So those are some suggestions for you for the photo. Stethoscopes, sometimes white coats, hand gestures. I'll do mine, U of H. Those are a little bit less, but some really bad photo choices can be a deal breaker. Okay. Essays, really, we say a lot of times do that third essay if you've got other things to talk about. we can talk about specifics. So I hope you're keeping track of anything you want to know more about. I want to make sure we leave us time for questions. Violations, you need to be show us honesty, renewed integrity, and remorse in those things. And there are your 9. It's really 9. Well, a little more because the honors and awards are academic and non-academic. So 9 or 10 things here that are very important in your personal biography. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. There is a new shoebox video on that. Um, so I'm very connected, active in the TMDSAS community, and so I'm giving you, like, I hope this isn't illegal or anything. I'm giving you like a heads up what you have to. We are modifying some things. The required main essay remains the same. Explain your motivation, and look at this most important part. Be sure to include those experiences that you've had and that you're going to list again in the personal biography. This one, the second essay, has changed. It needs to be simplified. Okay, so we have crossed out that top part, and it's going to be something like describe the personal qualities, characteristics that you possess, and the experiences that grew those personal attributes. They're going to enrich the experience of others around you in school and in medicine. And the optional essay we think is misinterpreted. So going forward, we have eliminated the word unique. So that if there's any place that anything else that you need a place to put something, it can go here in this optional essay. Okay. TMDSAS says save often. I've heard some horror stories about that, but you've got backups, I'm sure. Anyway, save often. Your spaces count in those character counts in all of the places where there's a count. You'll have character counts in the personal biography also if you're a new applicant this cycle. Don't abbreviate, like watch what you're abbreviating. And if it's very long, find some way to shorten it. If it's like you put a lot of things in there that you're living, it's very familiar to you, but it's not familiar to the reader. Okay, so watch that abbreviation piece. And try not to spend characters on that if you can. And cut and paste makes wonky personal statements, and we end up with characters, random characters, instead of an exclamation point or a comma or something. Make sure, look at the box here, make sure that you answer the prompt. Use examples, demonstrate your personal characteristics. There are ways that you can show that you're a humble person by acknowledging that there are a lot of good people out there doing a lot of good things, and you're one simple soul, but with big passion. So there are ways to tell us you're organized, you're motivated, you're curious, creative, you have integrity. There are ways for those things to come across before we meet you in the interview, okay? And this is one of the things that is in the personal statement video. Share broadly. Have people read your personal statement and ask them, what personal characteristics do you see in there? You know, does it make sense? Does it flow? All of those things. But then ask them, what of my personal self, what's shining through to you as you read this? So make sure you do that. Reporting your activities, you know, it's asking for activities that you've done after high school graduation, okay? But we're going to forgive you if you were a Girl Scout and won the earned by your work all through those years, the Girl Scout Gold Award. Same with an Eagle Scout. We don't get Olympians very often, but sometimes people are competitors, and you can list those kinds of things if they stand out, okay? We're going to forgive you for a few high school things. You can't put all of your shadowing hours from high school and very little from like post high school graduation. You can't do that. You need to get out. You need to take a gap year. Gap years are great. The application always gives guidance. We always tweet the guidance every year for you. Read the handbook. Look at what the guidance is for every single question. in the TMDSCS system and in the AMCAS system. That will help you. It will say, really try to categorize things in one category. There are things that are huge. If you're going to put a research experience in two categories because you do clinical work on Tuesday and Thursday with the PI and you're doing data or other things the other days of the week, make sure you don't copy and paste the description. Does that make sense? That's kind of obvious. You can repeat if you're anything in work that gets that could go in another category, you better duplicate. If you're working at Costco and you're a team leader or you got employee of the month or something, you go put that up there under leadership or recognition categories. Okay, so do repeat all employment. Scribing, you put that back up if you're paid, good, great. Put it under work, but then duplicate the thing in healthcare or even service type activities where you've earned a stipend or something. Reflect, reflect, reflect. It's a superpower. We want to see it in your application. Here's that biography again. I'm going to go through some specifics with you. So in those descriptions, you will get 300 characters in the personal biography. It will say, let me go back a second. It will say, do you have any honors and awards that you want to tell us about? Do you have leadership that you want to tell us about? Do you have healthcare activities that you want to tell us about? And so your answer to most will be yes, and then you get the drop down to fill in those things. The shoebox page for your personal biography has all the columns all reflect the questions that are asked of you in the application. So I don't know what your log looks like, but if you want to be ready to fill in everything, you'll look at the columns that I put for you in the shoebox. Anyway, for all of these things, you'll get 300 or 500 characters as a description. Make sure you sit down and reflect on those things, okay? So I've given you some prompts. You're welcome. So you can look at any of these activities and ask yourself, how was this meaningful to me? What lesson did I learn from this activity or lessons? Or how did I grow from this experience? And those are going to help you guide your experiences. Guide your answers in that description part. Okay. So here's some real people, and here is the real biography from some applicants in recent years. So looks great. Look, they were a distinguished scholar, Dean's List. That's excellent. Got a certificate in a summer research program. We don't know the size of that, large or small. If any of those things are very competitive, or you were selected for it, or asked to participate, those are all good things and show recognition. So you should list it. You should tell us about that. There were 300 applicants, or the teacher came to me to ask me to do this. So those are all things that you could add. Leadership was an officer. Remember, leadership does not have to be an officer. That's very restrictive. We're looking for things that gave you leadership skills. Any life experience that gave you organization, communication skills, time management. Those are all leadership skills, right? Think about what is a good leader. That's what we're looking for. Why? Because there's so much crossover with the work and life of a doctor. Okay. Research, so good research. I don't want to spend too much time on every single thing. Look, these things look great until we get to hospital courier. So that's a good 1,000 hours in 3 different places. Work, so they were paid, excellent. So we kind of ignore that. But you need to pick whether you want it to be a service. I'm not sure why it felt like I definitely would have duplicated hospital courier in healthcare. Okay, in that category. So watch that. I love this extracurricular though. Look at all the things. They're piano, they do art, they play tennis, cooking, food blog, and yoga and meditation. And if you're doing one of those things as a learner and you're getting with a group to learn tennis, that even that's I think of a little more value even. So look for those things. That's a personal growth plan. If you haven't heard that before, we can talk about that later. There's a new video on that. Well, there's an old video on that, but a new one's coming. Um, Prairie conservation, boot walk, project cure. So community service is awesome, but the things you'll hear some of us say over and over, I call it heart to heart and hand to hand. It's when you sit with someone who is alone and is in need of something, in need of company, in need of a clean start to the day. Dressing and bathing people is service of the highest in the highest way, I think. Just getting somebody clean and ready, and then sitting with them to play Scrabble or cards or talk about books. So these things, but everything has value, right? What else? And there's a let's go on to the next one. I have three of these to share with you. I think a lot of us know what AED is, but in the description, then you could use the characters to describe that honor society. And if you're putting that down, entering that, then you might also say what your AED requires. Probably there are some standardized requirements. Founders scholar, like I don't know what that would be. So tell me a little bit about that. Especially if it's selective, do you get together to do some leadership, other things? So it's an honor, but you also are going to be in the look, top scholars, top scholars. I don't mind that repeat. I don't mind that repeated activity because I figure it's an honor, but then you're like doing something with that. A lot of campuses, a lot of undergrads have those kinds of things. um, I hope that Chi Omega Social Committee isn't just all about partying. I think, but I mean, of course, right? But I'm just going to say it for you out loud. You learn a lot of things from being social with people. It's some of the stuff that we are looking for. So tell us what you learned as that chair. So let's see, EMS officer, lots of good things, research scholar. I'm not sure what that is, and I'm not sure why I put a box around it, but it looks good. Medical scribe, 2,000 hours. Down here, it's repeated at 40 hours a week for the work, the paid work, and repeated up here in healthcare. So that's excellent. Look at community service, top scholars again. So there's leadership and service in this organization. I think that's okay to repeat there. The description has to be different. Make sense? Campus EMS, those kinds of things are wonderful. Soup kitchen is close to being with people, maybe. Um, and some soup kitchens, you're in the back cooking. Some food pantries, you're back doing stock. So when you can get in front and be with people who are needing those things, that would be even better. You shouldn't have, no application should have extracurricular, none. Like, what are you doing when you're not in school? And what are you doing to better yourself? This is part of the climb thing, right? Are you teaching yourself Spanish? This is my personal growth plan thing for you that can make you absolutely very competitive when we see these. It's my favorite place in the whole application is to go look at extracurricular and tell me what you've been doing. Are you learning to crochet and then giving it in community service, donating it or something? And I love learning a language or exploring in life in different ways. So that could be huge and full, and maybe some of the most important things that we see in you. Those stories are on some of those videos on the channel, so look for those. Personal biography, here we go. Dean's List, employee of the month, Costco, work at Costco. So, if you have never worked at, and this happens to a lot of us in a traditional pathway, It's so nice to see that you've, worked at the Jack in the Box window. There are so many lessons to learn. Oh my goodness, like dealing with people and you forgot their ketchup. Oh my goodness. And like, how do you control fiery situations or mistakes and things like that? There's so much to learn. Very, 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 very valuable. That's why the box is around there. Working with homeless people um, for 100 hours, and that's a good thing. These are all like really good things. Um, Anything else I want to point out? If there's anything on these past slides that you want to know more about, I hope you're recording your questions. Okay, how are we doing? I think we're doing okay, and I think this presentation time went from 12 to 1. We'll be hanging out with you until 1:30. So we'll have definitely time for questions. Now, here are some real descriptions, and I think they illustrate for you what we're looking for. This activity is named a medical scribe. It was February to July, like a good amount of time, 30 hours a week. Let me say something about this. Sometimes you're not doing something on a weekly basis, regular weekly hours. Okay. So what you do, so as not to exaggerate and to give us a more realistic, the most realistic impression about this activity, if it's irregularly scheduled, is do start from your total. Okay, so if the total is 600 hours that you've logged, but it was very irregular, then just take the 600 and approximate what a weekly time would be. Does that make sense? Because otherwise the calculation can look way off. So here's the description. Medical scribe works closely with the physician to document patient information. Working as a scribe provided experience with using electronic health records and, oh my gosh, learning the terminology. What do you think of that description? Boring. Boring. No offense, any of that, but this really needs to be polished. Like 90% of the people reading your application, like the vast majority are physicians. Do you need to tell us what a scribe is? No, of course not. So this is where the superpower comes in. Okay. So that's boring. This one says hospital volunteer. Helped direct patients to their appointments and also answered questions at the visitor center, sometimes transported patients if needed. You all have heard me in other settings say this is very simple. It is very superficial description of that activity. But the next one, watch this. Watch this. Hospital volunteer. Same, same sort of thing. Hospital volunteer. I was trying to go backwards just to remind you. Anyway, it's a volunteer in a hospital setting. Look at that description. Does this tell you what kind of a person this is? Provided hope, comfort, support to patients and families, enhancing my ability to communicate and show compassion in challenging situations. Demonstrated ability to counsel and help create a positive environment for patients while maintaining a professional presence. This person knows that anybody in the hospital is not having a good day. And this person worked to provide a more positive experience for people in 270 characters. So you can do it. You can do it. So that's a big win right there. And that's a great example of somebody who took the time to reflect on something more meaningful in that experience. And if you're going through experience to rack up hours and say, oh gosh, I need like some more of those hours and everything, so I get that, and you do need the experiences, but then you do your fun homework as close to the time of the experience as possible and sit and reflect on that. What did I get out of it today? Maybe it was a one person who really made an impact on you that day, or you made an impact on them. And that's okay to write about too. We get that kind of thing all the time. This is maybe that same courier served as a liaison between pharmacists and doctors to ensure medication was delivered in a timely manner to the appropriate rooms, communicated with doctors and nurses and pharmacists when medication needed to be modified, and resolved issues quickly. Developed skills to work efficiently. This person learned that you have to act with urgency because all the other teams in the hospital are relying on you. So that's a big win right there. Look at this one. This is Project Cure. Now we're going to learn what that is. Worked in small teams to organize and distribute donated items to be transported to underserved communities. Learned how to make an impact when working on a team, communicate effectively, follow guidance. Do you see the personal attributes here? Organization, thinking ahead, how to make an impact, communication, practicing communication. So these, we could have learned a little more about that actual project, but they were concentrating on the personal attributes, which is the highest level I think that you can do. The whole description, if it's too much for those characters, could be in that optional essay. Okay, so that one I think is a good one. Food bank. Worked in a team of 40. This is nice detail. Worked with 40 people, preparing meals and essential items. Taught me the importance of collaborating with others in an effort to be productive and efficient. See? So you're growing those things. And when you are becoming a better person by watching the growth of your personal attributes, you are going to be a better doctor. And in between there, you're going to be a better medical school candidate, applicant. Okay. So that's what you're working to do, is grow and improve yourself as a person. Watch the timeline, always pay attention. I don't know that you need to write down any of these times because they change periodically. For the upcoming cycle, it's going to open May 1. You will be able to submit your application May 15th. And I only recommend you do that if you are doing fun homework every weekend from now until May 15th to use reflection and maximize, maybe even start some virtual things, maybe start a personal growth plan so that you have that to report in May. But so you've got all of these timelines on the TMDSAS and AMCAS websites for you. Let me know if you have questions about that. It's a long cycle. It's too long. And someday we are going to fix this. We have robust conversations in our admissions communities, larger like TMDSAS and Texas Health Education Service. We have robust conversations. It should really be compacted a little bit, maybe May 1 to May 1. So we're sorry that we haven't figured out how to do that yet. Wait pool period goes into June and July, even for some schools sometimes. But we're trying to fix it. So this is my Rita's, her mnemonic. I put a bunch of important things in there for her and said, like, can you make this into something? So these are what I call that hidden agenda and things that we are looking for that I've already described to you. When you see the video that says you are online, it's white coat notes, you're underestimating the power of your personal attributes. There are a bunch of stories on there that illustrate examples of this and how the challenge or the learning something new didn't just improve the person, but was the thing that stood out for committee. And for half of those stories, more than half of those stories, that applicant didn't even tell us about it. We happened upon the topic in interviews. So be careful of that and look up those examples. Use a personal growth plan. The last thing I added was this, and then we'll get to some questions. So I'll pull my the question panel up, and we'll work through those questions. So I hope you're putting some things in there. Curate your list. So I think there are no questions asked when people pay the very nominal fee in the TMDSAS system. We're so lucky to be in Texas for so many different reasons, and you've got a small fee of 200 and something, right? With 14 opportunities. So why do you want to do 13 or 12 or 6? I don't know. But if you curate a list and you're only applying to Galveston, Baylor, Houston, U of H, we can kind of see that you want to stay in that geographic location. That's not a smart thing to do. So the question then is, do you want more chances, as many as possible, to be a physician and find this dream happening? Or is it the most important thing that you stay in that geographic area? And can you and your significant other people for whom you are staying in a geographic area, do they have any leeway? I think those are important conversations that you will have, and weighty decisions, I'm quite sure. But I'd like to ask people, like, how are you curating? How did you come up with this list of places? I would always advise in a one-on-one advising session, to maximize as much as possible. But sometimes people have, like, most of the TMD-SAS schools listed, and they wanted big cities, they wanted big patient populations, or special programs that those schools offered. So that's interesting and good to know. The other caution you all don't hear about very much at all is, but you need to know this so it doesn't like haunt you forever in a reapplication situation. If you are having second thoughts about a school, for any reason, it's, after the interview day or finding out, and please don't, I would use extreme caution and big, huge grains of salt if you're looking for advice from Reddit or Student Doctor Network, okay? But if you have sincere and legitimate second thoughts about a school to whom you have applied, um, you need to withdraw before an opportunity for acceptance. Do you see what I'm saying? Because once you get that acceptance, so this would be after an interview, maybe you've gotten some other interviews. I know you cannot count on that. You can have a bunch of interviews and still somehow not make it through. Okay, that happens. But you need to think about that as you're wrapping up your interview portion of the cycle, because if you're accepted, and maybe that's the only acceptance, when you turn that down, that haunts some people because it is so competitive. So everybody that you're applying to, find those good things about that school. Any school in Texas is going to give you just an excellent, and many across the nation. I just know the Texas schools very well. Um, all of them are going to give you an awesome education to be a physician. So I guess you get my points. Okay. Uh, you don't hear about that thing very much. Here are 2 QR codes for you. There are some books. I should have put them in order. On Doctoring is, if you're a beginner at all this, sometimes a career changer who's at the beginning, this sort of explains thing. Where do you even begin? Is for high school to freshman timing or a career changer. Then Walking Through the Application, my husband thinks that's the best one, and it talks about all of, not in all necessary detail, but it talks about all components of this whole application process and some pointers. I think you get on Amazon to see you get to see the table of contents to see what the topics are. And then this was the first one, but going to be 6th in the series, is shadowing. Student Doctor Network says it is worthless, that you have to do it just because you have to do it, but you don't get much out of it. That's a person, whoever said that, that's a person who did not plan. They did not lay out any goals for that shadowing experience. This book has probably 1,000 prompt questions for you and guidance when you go to something. Doctors are busy. Their focus is not on you. Their focus is on the patient, where it should be. So sometimes you would feel like in the background, but you have activity in your brain going on the whole time, taking mental notes and looking for certain things, the language of medicine, new terminology, tests and things like that. So that's what that shadowing book is for. The QR code on the left is for those books. They're as cheap as I can make them for you. I'll give you the 40 cents back if you need it. And the goal is for the end of the year-ish to have all the 10 topics that I want to talk to you about in one book. And this is the shoebox, in case you don't see the shoeboxes there. That is the shoebox format for planning this whole journey, if you are early enough in the process to do that. And people will take parts that they like. There's an accompanying video, 2 videos for this whole shoebox thing. Okay, It's time for Q&A. Okay. So, oh, good. And I see these here. Um, Let me get to this. Okay. Do do I have a team here? Is Anna, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
right here. I'm
Okay,
right
I
here.
can't, this nice big group. So would you do me a favor? Would you pull up your Q&A and read them to me?
Absolutely.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you so much.
So, first question, how do you document experiences you plan to do during your gap year in your application?
Oh, good. So great question. I love this question. This could be like a whole video, but I have four stepping stones, four building blocks if you're planning a gap year, if you're a freshman and planning what to do with your summer, for any chunk of time, you should be doing four things. Okay. So specifically gap year, right, for you, but apply this to any time period. You should be doing something for your brain. So if you graduated, you're in a gap year, you've done a lot for your brain, but you should keep your brain active. So go to Khan Academy and take free immunology. For free, sign up, take genetics, take something to keep your brain working and active. Okay. Do something academic. Second is continue to learn about healthcare, medicine, a physician's job. Read a book, and you don't have to be stuck in a scribing job that you can't find in part time, or you don't have to be stuck with searching for shadowing. You can also read a book about medicine, read a book about a patient. Um, Curate a TED Talk list about a physician's world or the world of healthcare. So you can be doing some online or virtual things planned in your schedule. So that keep learning about healthcare. Continue serving others. Lend a hand. Do nursing homework. Join big brothers, big sisters. And then you should be doing something for yourself. So those are the four, maybe a personal growth plan, like do Toastmasters, where you learn to do public speaking, that kind of thing. Okay, I'm ready next.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do this one's a part of the application. Do contractions count as abbreviations? It is, you're trying to make it shorter, but don't want to be unprofessional.
Yes. No, I think that's okay. I I don't have any bad examples for you to avoid floating around in my head, so that'd be okay.
Okay. When you say people in the PS, is that is that specific stories about a person or de-identified patient or just activities that show work with people?
Yes. Any work with, so all of the above, okay? If you have a fantastic mentor that's been with you in all of this journey and given you advice, you learned to be a better professional, you learned some things from them, you can write about a mentor, you can write about, and we really don't. You don't have to make them anonymous. I assume you're going to say a lot of good things about a lot of the people you encounter. So you don't, you can just call them by the first name or something, or Mrs. M or something. You can do that kind of thing. So people go to great lengths to tell us. Don't use characters saying this name is a false name, a pseudonym. We don't care. Um, but so patient stories, team workers, collaborative, like people from anywhere. And if you've worked with groups, you can tell us, you can include those people. So anybody, just that all of those human pieces that you're living every day are important to us. And if Anna's going to continue to read,
Yes.
and if you want clarification or follow up, just put it in there.
Okay. So, let's see. Someone asked, is the honors and award section of the application, are you able to add a description?
Yes, you certainly do. I think that one is a shorter. I think that one is 300. Leadership might be 5. There are a couple in the shoebox. I have it listed for you on one of those pages, reflection page. Maybe I have the most up-to-date character limits on there. So yes, you do get a description for that. So that's great to tell us there was a minimum GPA or there were 10 people trying to get this award. Remember to do, if your team went to regional or something, your intramural team won everything, then that's appropriate too. If you're into photography and you submitted things, or you submitted your poetry to an online thing and you won an award, tell us about it. So, yes.
Okay, great. Let's see. So staying on the same, do extracurriculars include all significant hobbies? Is there such a thing as including too many extracurriculars?
I think there probably is, especially if let's just say this is random. Say you have 5 healthcare activities and 5 community service things that you're listing, and 15 in the extracurricular. I think that there are ways that you can combine some things, if it's like great. So I met someone who had worked through high school in a health careers. It was a health careers high school, and they had like 10 certificates, maybe pharmacy and some other certifications. There are a bunch out there, which might be something nice for a personal growth plan related to healthcare. See what those certificates are. But I expressed to her not to list all of those in the extracurricular or the healthcare, but to combine them and then talk about them in the description.
Yeah. And on that note, when you have experiences that can be repeated in healthcare section and the employment section, do they need to split the hours between the two?
No, no. If it's healthcare and you're a scribe, you don't have to do any splitting of hours in that situation. If it was a big research project, you're working all summer, you're going to accumulate a lot of hours, and say you're doing testing or data entry or something like that on Monday and Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you're in the clinic with your PI doing informed consent, explaining things, or maybe even exams in the clinical setting. Those descriptions will be different if you can parse out the hours that might be helpful and look like you're trying to tell us the full truth about the thing. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to kind of group them together,
Oh,
similar.
thanks. Okay.
Uh, okay, before I go into gap years. Um, uh, okay, let's see. Then we'll go to this. Casper. Somebody wanted to know how the Casper scores are considered during the admissions process.
Yes, that is a great. I'm writing it down. We do an interview day. We do an interview day YouTube channel as well. And I think that's on there somewhat, but maybe it deserves its own short video. In our school, we do not use a Casper score for anything that weeds out people from the beginning. Okay. But by the time we're inviting people for interview, we have a lot of people who have already taken it. And so we don't screen out anybody on the basis of a rubric. But if we see a high Casper score, somebody who has prepared for this, and you can prepare for the Casper, then we will invite them for an interview. If they haven't made it on other values like the metrics or the experiences, the major things that we look at for screening in, we need to see that person. If they're in the 99th percentile of the Casper measuring personal attributes, we want to talk to that person. We want to see that in person. Um, so it's used then as one piece of probably a couple of hundred that end up in a database, and people will point out when it's low. The committee members might point out, look, this is a little bit on the low side, but it's a measure of your personal characteristics, right? It's a measure of your personal attributes. So when the Casper didn't catch it, we think, okay, they didn't prepare or give it some time. but we see that they're a good communicator, that they have empathy, that they're connected to people, that they're good at time management, and all the things that the 10 things measured by the Casper we can find in the application or in the interview, and other components. So if it's a bit low, it doesn't bother us. You can't, you should not game that system. You can't click through it. I mean, and we don't really pay attention. You get reported, you get the report of your quartile. So you know if you're in the top or middle or third or fourth quartile for the cohort in the Casper test. We don't really mind if it's the low end because we're looking for the personal attributes everywhere, as I said. But if it's very low, it means a person just clicked their way through it. And then we can tell it's a z-score way out of the range, standard deviations away. So I wouldn't recommend that. And I have reached out to people who were very, very, very high, and probably, revealed something I shouldn't have revealed, but I said, you did so well. How did you do that? And every single person that I ask, and reach out to, they say, well, I prepared. And they prepared by doing the things that I tell you in the interview video. You read about decision making. You find out how does a person make a decision that is a win-win-win, because that's what you're looking for in these situational judgment tests. So they prepare and they look at sample scenarios. They work through sample scenarios that you can find all over YouTube and on the Casper website. So,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
So we have a few questions about reapplications, of course. And so some are asking, how would you, so I'm going to give you a couple just because they're kind of the same topic. How do you recommend applicants reflect to determine whether or not to reapply this upcoming cycle or take maybe 2 more gap years? And then let's do that because
Let's do
that's real
that one.
specific. Yeah,
Yes.
that seems
So
very important on its own. Yeah.
let's talk about some specifics, okay? Because it is very important. And what I hope you'll do with this information is look at your application, look at it overall, look at the various components. Is this portrayed in the best possible way? I mean, it's easy for me to say reflect on it and be real with yourself, okay? So what are you presenting to us? Look at the components of holistic review. Um, when I ask applicants, often they say, I need more research, I need more scribing. Those are the most common answers. But if your MCAT is a 503, your first response ought to be, I'm going to tackle this MCAT in a different way. And I'm going to get a loan. I'm going to find a way to do low cost. Look at the AMCAS website for low cost resources. Like you can do all the research and scribing possible, higher, bigger, better than anybody. But if your MCAT is a 500, that's not competitive. So now you know that the national and state average for that is a 512. And if you're a little under, that's okay. But if you're above that now, I think you're going to have more of a chance of getting invited to more than one interview day. Okay, so that's the be real part. Then, I mean, you could even trade your descriptions when you're describing things especially for the things that are meaningful. Did you tell us did you write descriptions like I just showed you in those good examples? Did you talk about providing care and having your focus in that activity be around the other person you're visiting with in community service? Is that reflected in that? Do you need some more, time in some other activities? And what is your personal growth plan? Other schools, other people don't call it that. But again, that just stands out for so many of us looking to see how you're improving yourself or doing something that you need to do, or just fulfilling a dream by learning to play that violin. Okay, that's worth something to us. I hope that this gives you some idea. Okay. I gave you some examples of what shows up on the application, and talked about reflection. So I hope that that gives you a start. And remember that there are 20,000 something spots for 50 plus applicants. So there's that piece of it too. And I talk to people every year that that really have a good application, and I say just keep doing what you're doing, and you got to try again.
Okay. So based on that note, there's a couple of people that asked about their new personal statement,
Okay.
whether any advice on that new personal statement. Others have mentioned how much they should change in their personal statement.
Yeah.
And then it- let's see.
Let me start with that, and we'll
Let's
do
do, yeah.
follow up.
Hmm.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to. So it says explain your motivation. That should be genuine and true for you anyway. And then based on these experiences, as you're making a reapplication, you will have new experiences, and maybe one of those is not like at the root of your motivation. If you can just kind of find a different way to present it. So I'm not a literary person at all, but I do see, somehow it came to me as I'm looking at personal statements. Sometimes people have this beautiful, very meaningful phrase at the end sometimes, or in a paragraph where you're talking about your family or patients or something like that. And I'm like, why don't you just put that at the top? And then you get us curious. Those examples are in the personal statement workshop. So so look at your application. I mean, look at that statement. Is there anything that really stands out? Like move that to a place at the beginning, or an impactful. It could be an impactful ending. You do have to change it. If we're looking, we have committee members all over the country who will put the new personal statement up beside the other one, and if they look exactly the same, that's not good. Because once you submit in May or June or July, you've got this whole other year that you should still be building your life in medicine by becoming a better person and learning more. Okay, so you don't have to change the whole thing. Any others on personal statement?
Let's see.
Or
This one says, how would you recommend to balance reflection about our experiences and what we learn with show not tell approach in the activity descriptions and essays?
um, I I think I'm simplifying that. Could you read it to me one more time?
Sure. How
Mm.
would you recommend to balance reflection about our experiences and what we learn with a show
Oh,
not tell approach
yes.
in
So if I'm not getting it, please reword it for me. Excuse me. But I think that you're right. I told you good, better, best. So it's good to like tell us the very basics about the activity. Better is to tell us a little bit about what you did, the surrounding experiences. Was it a big group, small group? Those kind of like details about the actual thing. And then best is to incorporate those your personal attributes, the lessons that you learned, the meaningfulness in that thing. So to balance that, the reflective piece that I'm asking you to do with the details that we need, I think you can do it. I think you can do it. And like that one example, if you just need more space, then put a paragraph in that optional essay. That third essay is optional. It says whatever you haven't had room to put somewhere, you can put here. I have seen people do one whole essay, the 2,500 characters on one topic, and I've seen people do 3 paragraphs, explain a bad semester, some of their high school like interest that they didn't have a place to put. So you can break those up too. But I think you just have to work uh, creative in a creative writing way to give us the reflection. And if you just don't have room like that one, I'd rather see the reflection piece than lots of details. So if it's an important activity for you and one with a lot of time. Okay, ready?
Yes, so we have a lot of questions about the MCAT, right? So we're talking
Okay.
about, would a low MCAT um, hurt their chances automatically? That's
Mhm.
one. Another one is talking about um, if there is, if they're currently studying for their MCAT, would it be less meaningful to put planned shadowing in my application? Or should I try to balance shadowing in my schedule right now because
Yeah.
they're studying for their MCAT?
Sure. Let me think of all the MCAT points that I've got, and if I'm not hitting it, we'll hit it again.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Great.
So there are schools with minimums. We really don't have a minimum at our school, but that's part of your research. And one of the tabs on the shoebox is to find out what are averages for, and ranges for the various schools. Okay. So are you automatically weeded out with a very low MCAT? Yes, often. Let me just be truthful and transparent to you for you because we'll help you with the MCAT piece or the resources there. But yes, it's true. We know in our curriculum that people with the lower, um, 50567, all you have to remember also that medical school curricula are different. Okay. And in our school, people with a lower, in the lower ranges, struggle. We don't want anybody struggling, and we certainly don't want people not making it through and having debt without something in their hand to show for that, right? So the answer to that is yes, but you plan ahead. The MCAT needs a lot of time. A lot of us tried to do it while we're in school. It is like itself, the MCAT prep should be considered as a 50-hour addition to your semester. You need to be doing it every day. You need to be doing dedicated time every day. This is where gap years come out to be so important. And to answer that other activity part, um, I think it's hard when you have a job. I think it's hard for most people, a lot of people, let me say, during the traditional path in undergrad. So I think it's okay to say, I put time aside, and you don't even have to say it. Just show us. Just show us that you raised your MCAT 10 points. We have two videos on that channel that show there. It's called Tips from MCAT Tips from the Pros. Those are people we invited to be in a video to tell us what did you do to raise your score from a 503 to a 518? So all of those people have, you know, tackled it a different way. It is part of a three-legged stool of metrics. You need academic strength, you need an array of experiences, and you need to grow beautiful personal attributes that we want to see in the doctors that take care of us and our family. Um, a stool, you can't sit on the stool. It's not a sturdy stool unless all three legs are working. So yes, we all are looking for strength in all of those areas. Okay. So a 525 does not make up for a lack of uh, humility or experiences. No experiences, but I made a 525. Okay, well, we're looking for more. You can have beautiful experiences and beautiful reflections on those experiences, but if it's a 500, you need to work on it. But you can work on it, and people do that all the time. It's okay to set aside time. I love the gap year because you can focus on that academic strength. Do some things. Do a personal growth plan. Do you have an hour a week? Of course you do. Like to curate TED Talks or to do, perfect your baking would take like more hours, but you've got time to set aside during your undergrad experience to do some of these things. But then you graduate, strong metrics, and now you can turn your attention to more in-depth or a number of different activities in those four areas. So maybe it's a part-time, if you're blessed to have support where somebody's like, you've got a bed and, sometimes you have to work through all this to support yourself. So I understand that that makes that a little bit harder, and you know you best. and you just try to plan things out, but spend as much time. The people who are very successful at MCAT have put aside everything else to study for 2 or 3 solid months. They go to the library every day, like religion. They have a plan laid out for themselves. Then we talk to them periodically because they're freaking out about their plan and they're behind. You're always behind on the plan, not to worry, and you just revise it or move your date. Okay. Um, um, what else am I going to tell you? Once that's out of the way and you feel good about it, sometimes people continue to study, so that in case they need to do it again. It does not look great if it's a 1 point away, very low, like 503 and 504 and 506, like, but the people who get it are going from low scores and making 10 points, and the whole committee goes, okay, wow, they did what they needed to do and they focused on this. You're not going to have to take your step exams, our comparative test in medical school. We give you time to do that. Long school medicine, we give you 4 months to do that. That's a long time. So you need to take the time. I would suggest also that you look at the videos and resources. Look at what's I going to say? Look at the AAMC on the shoebox, on your to-do list. One of the things, and on the resource list as well, it's the AAMC's guide to planning your MCAT study. It tells you all of these steps. You ought to be researching your resources for 50 hours or 75 hours or something. I mean, that's a step in there. So if you're just like buying the books and jumping in, what is your plan? So you need to look at your timeline and resources and what you can do with those things. I think there are lots of good plans out there. You're looking for someone, if you can't do it yourself, you're looking for some company to keep you accountable. Okay, this is where the discipline piece really comes in, and where we have to like develop that so that we can make the most of the advice in the study. Is there anything else I want to say? When we see people who haven't taken it a couple of times and not made much change, you just really need to step back, talk to advisors, go find us here and there to give you some advice, because the next one really should show change. If you made a 503 and you need to improve your score, you ought to be approaching it in a different way, not using the same books. Another point that Mr. Petros Manasi makes, a master teacher, an MCAT expert who's going to be on one of these videos very soon. What he makes a couple of points, like we do well in biology, so we like keep doing the biology quiz. We keep creating that quiz to do that quiz because we're good at it, and then we get this positive feedback. But you need to do your physics because you hate physics, you're not good at it, and those are the ones you need to work on. So we tend to be drawn to the one that gives us good feelings, and that's not in the approach at all. We know from various groups and statistics that if you plan out your study and you get to take 8 or 10 weekly full length practice tests, you can't help but improve. You can't help but improve a lot. So plan approximate time that you want to do it, but then back that up for 10 weeks so that you can take full-time tests that are available to you. And usually it is not the content. That's the other thing. We are working through books to look at the content. You're done with that probably. Okay, it's the test taking that really helps improve people, and that's what students have said on that video. Full-time tests, doing your quizzes. I think also, it's another point I want to make. Let me say this one. You need to have a positive attitude about it. Like, don't do what I did. I hate physics. I don't want to do this part of the test. I'm going to take the biology test. You need to have a very positive attitude. I'm going to study today. Oh boy, look at the superpower video. Being positive about things, looking at funny cat videos, or having a positive mindset before you study turns on 2 learning centers for you. You want to do that before any study, but particularly the MCAT thing. Okay, that's all I can think of right now. Any other?
They just a couple of them just wanted to see if them struggling with their MCAT was significant enough to add as an activity, like as a challenge, or to mention in their essay.
Yes.
So a couple of them asked something like that if that was something they wanted to add in their application.
Yes. So I see it happening in either the what are your personal characteristics that positively influence others, or in the optional essay when you can say, I really understand it now. Here's what I did to understand and improve my study skills. I don't see it as an actual activity. There's a section for reapplicants. There's a question that says, what have you done? I always love to see, I'm doing this and this and this. Could somebody mute, please? I don't have the participant list up to mute you. So if you could please mute, that'd be great. I'm distractible. So I wouldn't put it actually as a listed activity, but I would give it a short to medium kind of paragraph in either the second or third essay. I think learning how to study could influence others positively in an academic setting, right? Most of you, if I asked, however many of you there are here today, if you ask a group of 100 people, have you ever taken a study skills course? Not very many people raise their hand. Maybe 10%. Most of the time it's 5%, maybe. A handful in 100 will say, yeah, I, gained a lot out of study skills. So that's the other thing you can do if you need to brush up that is figure out some very strong ways to tackle all academics. You're already bright, you're smart, you've been successful in undergrad, but we're taking it up a notch now for med school. And when you hone those study skills to do well on the MCAT, it gives you good prognosis for the future in medical school. So it's not a waste of time. It's not just a hurdle that we want you to grow over. Did I get it? Did I?
I think so. I think everybody that asked MCAT questions, I think she very much covered most of the things that you guys
Okay.
asked. So I know that some of you had real specific, like if I have this score, do I need to retake it? But someone said a 511, do I need to retake it? Because it's just right there.
That's good. It's right there. It's
Mhm.
right at the average range. So you could possibly earn an interview or two with that. My question often is there something that like, was that not your best day? Was that not your best practice season? Could you do better? That's what I would ask is, could you do better for some reason or another? Yeah, and see what that answer is. Nobody I know, everybody hates this part. Everybody. I lived it. You hate it, you don't want to do it again. But if you could hone that and do better, then yeah, then the answer is yes. But that's a you reflecting on that, not something I can definitely tell you, right? But I'll add this piece. Really, gosh, nobody should need to retake a 5, 13, 14, 15, but we will have people in the reapplicant pool who had really good MCAT scores and just didn't make it this time. So it's a lot of info for you to interpret there, but
Okay, so let's see. And then we're gonna move to the next aspect, which is GPAs, because that's a little harder than I mean, obviously retaking the MCAT is hard. I'm not saying that, but like GPAs is a harder
sure.
number to
Okay.
move, right?
Of course.
And so people are asking about when your master programs and
Okay.
how they should include it in their application.
Okay.
Since they don't actually have grades yet. Then they ask that versus a post baccalaureate program, and if it's meaningful to change their GPA. Let
Okay.
me get you.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So, okay, great.
If anything's, Jason, just read it to me,
Yeah, yeah.
in the interest of time. So,
Okay.
the range of medical school applicants you can see are y'all familiar with the AAMC matrix of MCAT versus GPA, right? And at one course, so if not, I think I have that tagged as a resource on sheet number 2 on the shoebox, but you can just Google and ask for that AAMC graph. And you've got low MCAT scores and low GPAs over here at the bottom left. And there are people who get in at the very bottom corner. There are. But keep in mind on that graph, a lot of people with, in some of the lower ranges of metrics are in special programs. So they've had some mentoring all along and they have an assured acceptance, for example. Okay. But you can kind of look up where you are. I've had people ask me, I think I'm going to do a master's. Do I need to do a master's or a post-bac or something, 1 or 2 year master's or a science master's, or what should I do? I've got a 3.6. I don't think that's low enough to, like, I think with a 3.6, maybe 3.5 in both overall and science, you could just continue to, that's when I would say I'm taking Khan Academy genetics and immunology this summer by myself. Then you can do some academic strengthening on your own. So sometimes people are saying, gosh, I didn't make it, but the GPA is showing, it's a rising trend. It's just the average is 3.5 or something. So we look at the trend and what you're taking and those kinds of things. So I think our friends who do master's programs and special master's programs, they offer our applicants and students wonderful things. So I think that that's great. Yeah, your grades, we will not see your grades. We will see that you're in a program. So it might be best to just take that as a gap piece. A lot of them are incorporating community service and other things. And there is always, I'll say it again, personal growth plan, there is always time for you to log into some virtual space and do virtual shadowing or do TED Talks as a purposeful learning experience as a personal growth plan. So there's always that. And then just give yourself time for the grades to come through and show. And we have people in our classes all over Texas, all over the US, who have been in a special, in any kind of master's program to augment that piece. So I think they're very good and sometimes a personal decision, or, and you look at what they offer and what you might need. Does that help? Did that answer your question? If
I
you asked
think
the question? Okay. Anything else? Any other pieces of that?
I'm looking to see if
Okay.
anything else has to do
I'll
with
add, sorry,
that.
I'll add that if your science GPA is low, but you've gained a love and you know how to do it now and you want to do a chemistry master's, like go for it. That is only helpful. That's a good thing.
Let's see. Right. So then the other one will be, since they're doing reapplications. Letters of recommendation, do they need to re-request them? Do they need new ones since they're reapplying?
Okay. So,
And
mhm.
so, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so letters of recommendation per our agreed upon guidelines from TMDSAS is you can use the same ones, but when you go back to that letter writer, you might say, I've done this and this in the meantime. I didn't get in. You might tell them some additions they might make. You want to ask very respectfully, but they can submit the same letter or the same committee letter. Depending on the school, there might be some schools that say, no, you have to do it this way or that way. There could, like, so I'm telling you the general TMDSAS piece is you can use the same letter for 1 year as long as it's redated. So the more current date is on there. Okay. There's a link to my how to ask for a letter of recommendation. Oh no, and it's in one of the books. Where is that? Probably the components, probably walk through the application. There's more in there. You want to help them by giving them some things, some of your strengths, some of the things that you've been working on, that kind of thing. What else?
Let's see. So
Good questions.
I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. I know someone asked about the academic fresh start.
Oh,
It should
Please.
be in our website. I'm gonna look for a link for
It's
it and I'll put it you guys in the chat. Do we have
It's
it?
changing though. It's changing
Oh,
dramatically. So we need
okay.
to, if we've got it somewhere on the website, then I don't think any up. This is like fresh, hot off the press.
Okay,
In
okay.
the 80, yeah, in the 89th legislature, the one that
Mhm.
just closed in Texas, and some states have this, but I think this is another very wonderful and unique thing that we do. The old fresh start and the information that you might see on our website, and even as you look at others, I don't know that you're going to see the brand new stuff. You're going to see that when applying to a professional program, if you graduate, no, if you have coursework that is 10 years old and prior, you don't have to report that to us. Now, there are some other things that people don't like. Like there's the way you do fresh start is you say, I'm going to start a new bachelor's. I know, don't groan right this minute because it's all, you don't have to finish that master's. Nobody says you have to finish it. You have a degree, you have prereqs and such. If you are wiping out old prereqs, you're going to need those. You can't kind of pick and choose. You're wiping out from a point in time when you go to your college or university, even a community college I've seen, to ask for you declare fresh start at that point. So then TMDSCS application says, did you declare fresh start? And most people say no. I hope more people will use it now because it's just a fantastic way. You went to school years ago and now you've got it. Now you're better. So I'm so happy to see that question in there. The new piece is fantastic and goes school by school. So the legislature has approved the motion, the bill that says you can do 5 to 10 years. So as an undergraduate school, conferring degrees on people, you could say, okay, for Fresh Start people, we'll do 5 years. So what you want to do is go find the school that's doing the low. Some are going to remain at 10 years, okay, and some are going to shorten it to 5 years. I'm so excited to see this. If you are applying in 2027, if you're applying in this upcoming cycle, and a couple of years ago you requested fresh start and a new bachelor's degree at a university, like going forward, it was anything from 2017 back. You've been out in the workforce, you're a career changer, all that stuff, all those grades go away. Now it's going to be 5 years, which means like you're learning how to study, you didn't make it through, like grades did not look good, but the current ones look great, and you're going to start a new bachelor's in biology or chemistry, and you're going to be all A's because you're a mature student now. And you do that and then work for a couple of years as a scribe, and then you can get rid of all those previous bad grades. And all we see is your good, current, strong work. Thanks, Anna. That's a great
Yeah,
question.
thank you. Okay. Okay, so one more question about letters of rec that I have here is that if they have been out of school for a few years, so they don't have contact with those faculty, is it okay to have letters from managers, physicians, or anyone else who works with closely or knows them well?
Absolutely. Most definitely. Most definitely. Managers, your research PI, people, anybody that you're reporting to, we see letters from a community service like long-term commitment. We see a research boss, Jack in the Box boss, and what we're looking for in there again is your personal strength, your personal attributes that they have observed in a longer setting than we have in the 30-minute interview and the paper application. So yes, that's fine. Your little league coach is not the best person to ask. Your neighbor who's known you for a long, long time and is a big family friend is not the person to ask. So, and you can have all kinds of extra things submitted, and we accept whatever you want to upload in our portal once you've interviewed. But like those just don't count. So you shouldn't do those. Any personal connection, um, yes, doesn't count.
All right, great. And I know I assume I'm sorry, I just saw someone on the chat just asked a question, and I was not sure
Sure.
if it was something that you were talking about. Someone Kevin, you asked, would it take away from your journey or story an opportunity to showcase your personal growth and accountability, etc.? Are you talking about the fresh start? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's his question. That fresh start, would it take away from your journey, your story, or an opportunity to showcase personal growth and
No,
accountability, etc.?
no,
Okay.
but it ditches all that like stuff that we have to like think about, if you had borderline grades in the past, it's a wonderful thing. So, and right now, I think there have been a few schools, so you would call them the registrar, or an admissions office should be able to tell you, that they're going with the plan for 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years. So hunt around until somebody builds us a list. Good.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's go. So now we're gonna talk about some activities that people have questions about.
Okay. And I
Let's
see
see.
I see the chat moving, and it's so much better in the QA. If you don't see it, look at your three dots at the bottom,
Yes.
because the chat moves and we don't know if we've answered it or not, but the QA, we can just delete them, and we know that we can move on to the next. So if you don't see the QA, it's at the three
Okay.
dots.
Okay. So quick questions about significance. Someone's doing a medical mission trip and putting working healthcare personnel, different
Great.
things that they're doing, and they want to know if it's volunteer or healthcare since it's a medical mission.
Right, right. So look at your handbook, your TMDSAS handbook for every entry year is going to change a little bit with guidance. Um, in the healthcare section, where you are learning about healthcare can go there. Volunteer, paid, whatever it is, if it's related to health. Um, but here's the thing. You get to categorize it. And say you have a lot of healthcare things already, but not that many. You've got some community service, but maybe not a lot. That's certainly a valuable service to people who need help. So I can see it being put in the community service area as well. That tab on the shoebox gives you a couple of ways to characterize things. You're going to pick the best one, and then you can look, what have I got in healthcare? You can sort it, right? So then you look at what have I got in community service and healthcare and others, so that you can recategorize things if appropriate.
So, continuing with those activities, I have someone that is doing a passion project that intersects with medicine, but is still being developed. And then someone that is employed as a home care attendant for a disabled family member.
Okay.
So
And what's
those
the
two.
question? Those are
The question
sound
is,
like great things.
so one of them is, when is it appropriate to include, and is it are they significant experiences? Where do
Yeah.
they fit into
Yeah.
the whole?
So for your passion project, I mean, I can see that happening. If you want to tell us the area, I can see a passion project being in the realm of creativity and art and extracurricular. Then you would put it in extracurricular. I could see it being public policy, and you're working with the state office in Austin with some public health project. Those are kind of neat things, I think, to do. So a passion, like, please tell us about it. And so that sounds great. And the other one was caregiver
For
on
a disabled family member.
on the, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
For a disabled family member.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so this came up at our recent TAP meeting. If you are taking your family member to appointments, and that's kind of the extent of it, um, no, so caregiver on the surface for us, superficially, caregiving is a valuable thing to the admissions committee observer. Okay. Really, if you're doing mostly transportation or something, you have to make more out of it than that to present us some things that we would value. So you get to tell us the value of what you learned. A lot of it, though, is making sure people are fed, they get their medications, they're clean and ready for the day, they have some company, those aspects of the caregiving. Um, They tell us you are sacrificing your time when you could be out there playing tennis or something, um, and you're sacrificing your time. So we call community service now. We call it community engagement, which I think diminishes the sacrifice piece. You, as a physician, are going to sacrifice your life. And your life with your other priority people, like your family, to some extent. So sacrifice is a necessary attribute that you should be willing to do. And so I think that demonstrations of that are going to be valuable for us.
You. I have someone that says they raise money for charity through registering and running for a marathon. And would this be something that they would want to include or not, and
Sure.
where?
Remember my motto? Remember that motto sheet? All good things are good. Put it on there. That's excellent. You raised money for a good cause. Try to find some way to help people in need. Well, more directly, heart to heart, hand to hand, playing Scrabble.
And so on that note, is using faith as a motivation to pursue medicine a good enough, they put in parentheses, reason, or does it seem fickle as people's views on religion vary greatly?
Oh, so yes. So I think a lot of us come to this life of dedicating our lives to students or, as advisors and teachers and working in the medical environment. I think a lot of us and physicians, other healthcare workers come to all of this because we want to help people. And sometimes that is faith-based because in middle school, the church youth group made us go on the trip to here or there to do these things, but we saw what that's like. And I think if you don't go, you don't know how meaningful that can be to see the smile on somebody's face that you've helped. So faith is a beautiful thing to write about. It's a beautiful piece of your motivation when that's your motivation. So yes, awesome, go for it. When it becomes troublesome, and we see one a year, is where the applicant will actually say, I want everybody to know about Jesus or something very specific. So that gives us pause because we ought to be honoring and dignifying all people from all walks of life, from any religion, from any perspective or another, from any culture, background, country, all politics, political bent, whatever it is. We should be respectful of everybody. And when it's one thing, very pronounced, stated in a very overt way, and it seems to exclude others, we're very cautious because our school wants people who will take care of everybody, you know? And so once a year we get that and get to talk to people. We've had another example. It's a lovely example. Is I've interviewed, and we see this periodically. We see several every semester. We see people who have worked on a campaign. We see people who have worked for a women's issue, but we don't know what perspective they're taking. And they presented it in such an open fashion and talked about what they learned from that activity without being cited, this side or that side, which was a very nice way to present. Is a very nice way to present things when you have a passion for one thing or another, but you still have you're going to take care of everybody 110%. That's what we want. So.
I have a quick question about adding things like faculty nominations for like student advisory committees or semifinalists for national competitive awards, even if they don't
Yes,
receive the awards.
yes, yes. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. It's in another presentation or several, for sure. I was nominated, I was in the field, you were on the short list, so absolutely list that.
Someone wants to know if how you look at subscores. So if their
Yeah.
CARS is low, but they have a
Yeah.
good overall average.
Yeah, so we don't look at subscores. of the MCAT. So we just work with the total. We don't super score. Um, in case you don't know, super score means a school will take the highest subsection from any one test to put them together. We don't report our scores, like the people shouldn't be doing that. And we don't use it in the process to use a super score. Um, the MCAT, the new MCAT in 2015, was built with this critical analysis and reasoning skills section. And everybody was all excited because this is critical thinking. This is critical analysis. What a great thing to measure a potential medical student by, right? So we're going to watch for this. It turns out to have no correlation that anybody has ever written about. So there goes that. Um, it happens. I think it can affect people whose first language is not English. We can see that in those long passages and trying to comprehend long passages in a constrained time, like a fixed time period and things like that. So it can be somewhat detrimental, but it's good practice for people in that setting also. But we don't, if we see I don't know when the last time we looked at a low cars was. So, so
Someone is asking about a military MD. Do we have any seats for military MD civil? I
yes.
don't know what that means.
Yes. So most of our students are civilian. We have a handful of people every year who are in the military. Some are new, which means they're applying to medical school with that health professions scholarship program that the military has. It's a wonderful way. Oh my gosh, especially nowadays. It's a wonderful way to, if you think it could be a part of your life, it's a wonderful way to foot the bill for all this. It's like a terrible time, I think about doing things, but physicians are high assets in all of the military branches. I think a lot of people don't do it because of the risk involved, but you're not too often in very risky settings in a practical reality sense. Okay. But it's a great way. They give you a big stipend and you pay back year for year for what your time spent in the military. I think we
Thank
have an
you.
old video on
And should they mention that in their application?
that they're military. Yeah, there will be military questions on there. Are you active or um, uh, ex honorable discharge kind of thing? Thank you very much for serving our country. Um, and yes, we ask you all about that. And then there's a whole drop down what you learned from the military. Military is so somebody could have no community service, but be have a honorable discharge from a military branch. It's very high value for almost everybody across the country looking at that application because of the personal attributes and strengths that you develop, discipline, leadership, like watching all those leadership skills that happen. And the whole maturity piece and all the components of that are very well regarded in our military applicants. So, all right, do you have many more that aren't cleared out? We might give it like
Yeah.
just a couple more minutes. And if we didn't get to your question, you could email our mailbox long SOM at UTESCA. Anna can put it in the chat. And
Yeah. Yeah, because these ones are getting real, like the next three are real specific and have nothing to do with anything else that we've discussed. One of them is talking about
yes,
any specific or additional interview advice.
yes. So what
Some
right now, what we have time for is for me to tell you to go on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube. If you captured the shoebox link, it's on the resource page. So we have a couple of YouTube channels. The Club PreMed, Long School of Medicine, Club PreMed YouTube channel is has a big interview, and some of these are getting refreshed soon, but lots of good interview information on that video. What's the
uh,
other?
I think this one is super important. Um, they want to see how whether talking about a learning disability, they're afraid that it can, and they've read somewhere that it can introduce a bias,
Sure.
but they also want to wondering if it's important to put it as part of an applicant's growth and resilience, having developed coping strategies to deal with their learning disabilities without it actually harming their application.
Right. When you reveal things, health conditions, learning struggles and things, or diagnoses, it is a risk. It is always a risk. So I can't tell you how everybody's going to look at it. You want to make sure the message is, I struggled, and now I'm so much better. I'm so excited to do this. Look at my recent grades. I mean, you have to back it up with everything being strong, showing in a strong way in the application now. You know, if you're not quite there yet, now's the time, maybe to work with your new methods or medication to do some more academics so that we can see it in action. So it's got to be demonstrated in the application. Do you understand what I mean? Like your most recent coursework is strong because now you've found ways to manage it, or you have medication. So yeah, it is a risk when we see somebody who has, for example, a health condition that we think you will all know and attest that you have read and understand technical standards of a medical school. And those technical standards mean that you can use your senses and your brain to get through this difficult medical school program with reason, if necessary, with reasonable accommodations. So there are some things that are unreasonable that a medical school cannot promise you, but the reasonable, we all have specialists who help, student affairs people with accommodations and things. Um, and you take a little risk at that when you reveal things, but most of us are prepared to help a successful applicant who's matriculating with those with the accommodations they need. Presenting it in your application needs to be positive, and it needs to be you need to wind it up with um, here's my strength. I know I'm good now. That is not bothering me. I have resources, and I've been able to be strong about this. So it has to finish up in a positive way. So don't, and if you're talking about anything current, we're going to worry. We don't want to break anybody. People tell us all the time about eating disorder, depression, things like that. We want to make sure you're strong. Now, medical school, it will be the hardest thing that you've done, and you need to be strong. So, yes.
And lastly, I want to say for activities that are not continuing, like college activities,
Yes.
post-graduation, how do we rewrite the activities description? Can we leave some of our descriptions as they are, or do they need to or do you
Oh,
recommend rewriting everything?
yeah, no, you don't have to rewrite everything. You don't, in a reapplication, we should see some new things. Um, and almost at the same level of, you were this busy and you're still busy out there serving people and learning about medicine, those four things, working on your brain and a personal growth plan. So we should see those four building blocks along the way, but you do not need to rewrite those descriptions.
And then lastly, can you talk more about the social justice advocacy section on AMCAS and meaningful ways you've seen it in applicants?
Yeah, I sure can. On the shoebox that I gave you, on that, it's on the personal bio tab sheet. Um, I show you the 9 TMDSAS categories and the 19 AMCAS categories. TMDSAS, we've talked about it a long time. We don't want to add things like that because then everybody goes, you can identify 15 out of you can list 15 activities. and use those 19 categories. So people are like saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to put on creativity? What am I going to put? Like, I don't know. I need an advocacy activity. So people are looking around worried that they don't have the right kind of um, experiences. And this is my intro. I'm going to answer the question in a second. And we feel like at TMDSAS that you're telling us what the important pieces were. You're telling, if it's not listed specifically, that's okay because you're going to tell us. If you're big into rural medicine and you have a mission to help that be better, we'll see it in your application. We don't need to ask you that on a secondary. Like why? Like it should be genuine, and we give you lots of leeway to tell us who are you, what are you going to do with this medical education, as opposed to orchestrating it. No offense to my AMCAS friends, right? So, and actually, they're thinking about doing what TMDSAS does, so that if you've got something, you'll tell us about it anyway. But I want you to think. We've had these discussions, and I was on the National Committee for Admissions for a while there, and our discussions included things people should think. I would listen, watch the prompt, read the handbook, and see what they tell you about that question, about that category. But teachers, mentors, tutoring, working with a municipal entity to help other people. If y'all could like, I think you need to mute, Anna. I'm sorry. It's so I can't. Yeah, thank you. I think it's coming from our office. I'm sorry. Maybe. Anyway, um, so please look at it in a very broad way because if you're a teacher, aren't you advocating for your people all the time? If you're tutoring, if you're mentoring, you're standing up for them and doing advocacy. People are hesitant or were for a while. I don't think you should be hesitant to say you went to a march, you worked on a campaign that was municipal or state to help make things better for people. If you're going to present it in a way where you're carving out people and you're not going to help these, but you're going to help these, then again, that's not appropriate, or something that we're looking for. But absolutely, you can write about those things in a broad way. Okay, and I would just like Google or Chat GPT some other activities that could be considered being advocacy positions. Okay, sorry. Yes.
And then lastly, I think this is my last, in activity descriptions, I prefer to have a brief story or description of your role or activity that demonstrates characteristics, or rather a list out characteristics or skills that you gain from the said activity.
Yeah. So we wouldn't want to see a list, but we would like to see, okay, you did crisis text line and you encountered a person who was very close to danger and harm, and how, maybe you sweated through that. Maybe you were so concerned and focused on that person as you were trying to think of things to help them. So in some of the things that you write, we will see the personal characteristics. I would not say, well, no, that's not true. I think there are some activities that I see people saying, I'm very organized. I I messed up as an officer in this club, but then I got my act together and now I've got great time management skills. So I think rather than a bulleted list exactly, we'd rather hear like how you got that way. Um, but yeah, pros rather than bullets.
All right. And then somebody asked about a GPA, an MCAT of 507, if it was something that they needed to retake.
I think so. I think in general, yes. I think in general, and you can do it. So, oh, I see an empty QA.
Yep, that's all done. I think we covered
Awesome.
most of them. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll close out now. I hope you got some specifics that you can use going forward. I hesitate to do this every year. I'm swarmed. Thank you so much. I appreciate the emojis. Our whole team does. They're on the phone, they're in emails, they're at events and things to help you be successful. So thank you for joining us today. I hope it gives you some things that are specific to work on. I dropped my office hours in the chat for you. It's kind of controlled, might be controlled chaos, but the instructions are in that in the survey or the registration link rather. So you'll see how it's going to work, and maybe I'll see you after you've done a review of what you've learned here, looking at your application. That's going to be what I asked you to do, is review this and tell me what you think you're going to help with. And you might have team members that help with this also. So we're looking forward to helping you more and be successful, because we know it's in your heart. We know it's a highly motivate. We know you're highly motivated, so we want to help. So everybody unmute so we can say goodbye, and we'll see you next time. Watch for things on the YouTube channel, okay? And it was great to have you. So unmute. Bye. See you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
very
your
welcome.
time.
You're very welcome. Keep up the good work, everybody. Okay? Take care.